This is the Word Slinger Podcast, episode number 1. Hello, world. This episode of the Word Slinger Podcast is brought to you by Happy Pants Creative. We connect you to the marketing and creative resources you need to help your business do more business. Get started at happypantscreative.com.
It's the Word Slinger Podcast, where story matters. Build your brand, write your book, redefine who you are. It's all about the story here. What's yours? Now, here's the guy who invented Pants Optional, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger.
Word Slinger.
I am the Word Slinger, and I did, in fact, invent Pants Optional, at least around this house. Hi, everybody. This is Kevin Tomlinson. I am the Word Slinger, and this is the show where a story is more than a tall tale. It's a way of life. So I know Hello World is not exactly the most original title for a first episode ever, but it seemed kind of appropriate for our digital age. So Hello World. Maybe future episodes will have pithier titles. So I wanted to, this is the very first podcast. This is the first time I've actually done this solo. I've been on a couple with some people, at least one. We'll say one. I've been on some unofficially, but I wanted to give this a try because there's, let me introduce myself, and that'll be a good start. We'll get rid of all the uhs, okay? So my name is Kevin Tomlinson. I am an indie author. You may already know that coming in because you probably came in through my blog or social media, but just in case you don't. So I've actually written a handful of books, including a couple of series that I'm working on. Actually, I've got one complete series, is a trilogy, which is the Citadel series, and that's a science fiction series. And it's the idea there was a sort of a what do they call that? Ship in a bottle kind of thing. Okay, you got some people stranded on an alien planet being led by a former enemy. there's all kinds of drama and intrigue there. So if you're into that sort of story, I think you'll dig it. It's a character-based story, so even if you don't enjoy science fiction, I think you'll really like it. Lots of great reviews on that. The series I'm working on now is called Sawyer Jackson, and that is the first book in that is Sawyer Jackson and the Long Land, and that is a young adult fiction series, a young adult fantasy. That's a ton of fun to write, man. I am completely digging that, and people are really responding to it. So you might too. You can actually try that out for free. Second book is coming up. So the first book is actually free on my website if you sign up for my list. Go to kevintomlinson.com. Right there at the top of the page is a little button. You'll see the cover. Just sign up. Give me your email address. That's all I'm asking for, and you get your free copy. And man, I would love it if you would agree to review that on Amazon and Goodreads and anywhere else you can think of, because man, we live and die by those reviews. It's pretty amazing, actually, how much a review can be a motivator for other people. So this week is going to be different than following weeks because we don't have a guest. But my goal, my hope, is that I'll have a guest every week. There's going to be weeks when I won't. I already know that. But I wanted to introduce you to me and to the show. And this is the very first Word Slinger podcast, so it's appropriate here. So the podcast this podcast focuses on. Let's start that over. This podcast focuses on story and how it shapes our lives and our culture, and how it can even shape our brand and our business if we are in business. And if you are an indie author, there's something here for you. If you're a reader of mine, there's something here for you as well. And if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur, or you just work somewhere and you want to kind of boost your career, we got a little something for you too. So I'll break down how that works in just a minute. But so that's what this is about. We're all about story, which seems like a broad topic, and it is, but it gives me a venue to talk about all the things that interest me, and more importantly, the things that I think will interest you. If you are coming in as a reader, I love you. more than you probably want me to. No, I love you, and I'm so glad you're here because this is for you. Actually, it's for a lot of people, but it's for you in particular because you're the person who comes to my site and reads my blog, and you're the person who follows me on Facebook and Twitter, and you encourage me and you give me some strength to keep doing this. But most importantly, you read my books. I mean, that's the whole point. So you're the reason I'm here. So if you are a reader, thank you so much. If you're not a reader, I hope you will be. You know, you can get into my books for free. The series, every first book in a series, I generally make free. And I have some freebies also as novellas and other stories on the site. So go check me out at kevintomlinson.com/books. You can see some of the free offers there. And, and I don't mind you paying for stuff either. So the only thing I ask, dear readers, is if you read my book and you like it, go post a review for me. That's really the only price. So, and if you're signing up for my email list, I promise you, I'm never going to sell that list. I think I wrote this somewhere on the site, but it's like, that's the one ring for me. Like I'm Gollum, and that's my one. That's my precious. Okay? So for those of you I just creeped out, don't worry, it gets better from here. So go check that out. As I was saying, the Word Slinger podcast is all about story. This week's story is my story because I just wanted to introduce myself a little, kind of break the ice. I am an author, and I'm also an author coach. So, I'm also a marketing smarty pants. If you check out my profile on LinkedIn. So, what this all sums up to, I started writing very early. I wrote my first book, quote unquote, when I was like in second grade, and what I did was write a story on about 3 or 4 pages of notebook paper, front and back, and I drew a cover, by hand with pencil, and I stapled it down the left-hand side. And, I took that to school, and my teacher and classmates saw it, and my teacher said, "Well, books aren't written on notebook paper." So, thus began a long, winding path of self-doubt and loathing as an author. So, because I was constantly plagued with the idea that what I was doing was not real work. And that's that still sticks around to this day. So I'm constantly thinking I'm not doing real work. It's because it's so much fun, man. This stuff is a lot of fun, so it doesn't feel like work. And you guys make that fun, so that's part of it. Just interacting with everybody is what makes it's like 98% of why this is fun at all. So years went by, and I had a couple of incidents. Like I used to write, instead of writing essays in school, I would write short stories, which got me in trouble every now and then. But they were always well received. My one teacher in particular, Mrs. Robinson, was my freshman English teacher, and she loved my stuff. But she would give me I'd get poor grades sometimes because she would ask for an essay topic, and instead of writing that topic, I would write a short story, and I turned it in. She loved it, and she says, "Very well written, but it's not the assignment." So I really am sorry. So that's how that went. Whenever I would do, one of the things I actually used to love, and I know kids hated this. I knew kids who just despised this. But I had teachers who made us do a daily journal, and we'd have to turn that in. And I suspect that they were never once looked at because I wrote stuff that surely would have landed me in the principal's office. But no, never happened. And instead, it became a habit. I actually really enjoyed doing that, unlike most of my fellow students. And I wrote short stories in that as well, most of which were fan fiction, to be honest. Now, I never knew the term back then, but now I do. And I would write these stories based on the book Ender's Game, which was the book that, in ninth grade made me want to be a writer and made me realize that man, people are actually making money doing this stuff. There's an interesting story behind Introduce Game for me because we were testing. It was a testing week, and we had to go to the library and pick something out to keep us busy between tests. So, I'm wandering around the library, and I was a reader. I loved reading, but I didn't have a genre that I really loved. I just liked stories, and the librarian, Mrs. Burke, saw me wandering and knew that I needed something and wanted to keep me out of trouble. So she says, "Well, what are you interested in? What do you like to read?" And you know, I've always been a forward-thinking kind of guy, so I said, I thought that the cool kids read science fiction. Yeah. So I said, science fiction, and she says, "Oh, well, there's a book that you'll love," and she hands me this book, and it's, to be honest, was not an attractive-looking book. I mean, it had this yellow spaceship on it, and this sort of weird space background and everything, and I was, whatever. I was kind of stuck with it because I said that's what I love. I was one of those weird kids that really wanted to love science fiction, which is bizarre. But anyway, I thought I'd become cool if I did that. So, lo and behold. Then I proceeded to, after my test, and I always tested very, very quickly, I proceeded to read that book like cover to cover in an hour. And I was hooked. I read everything Orson Scott Card wrote from that point on. I started emulating him. I started writing fan fiction with his characters, which I'm sure he would appreciate. And anyway, so that helped launch. That was a piece of that writing puzzle. After high school, I wrote in college, and I started. At one point actually in high school, I was actually being paid to write, which is I tell people that story all the time. Like I've actually been a published paid author since I was about 12 years old. Little pieces for the paper, basically, but that wasn't fiction, but which it had been actually. But I was intrigued by writing, and I wanted to do it. I dreamt of it, but man, it was hard, right? I mean, it was tough to sit down and write these things. It took time and energy, and I was kind of lazy about it. But then I kept doing it. Like, oh man, I really dread doing this, but I'm going to do it. And so I did, and I wrote tons of short stories, and my friends dug them, and some of them were crap, and some of them were pretty good. I've read some of the older stuff I wrote, and a lot of it's not that bad. Some of it's pretty good. I need to polish those up, maybe put them out, release my early work. Years later, after getting out of college, I more or less I went through a series of career shifts and everything. Got into media and did some documentary and film and television work, and I got to a point where I really wanted to write, so I managed to snag a job as a copywriter. And if you don't know what a copywriter is, it's not the person who puts the little circle R on stuff, which is the very first thing anybody ever asked me about. But a copywriter writes copy, which is basically just text, and usually very targeted text. For marketing purposes and advertising purposes. But a copywriter writes these, the ads and white papers and articles and things like that that people use to do more business. So I got into that, and I more or less thought I'd found a pretty decent career in that, but lo and behold, it doesn't pay a lot. You can make a really good living as a copywriter. You will work slave hours. So, sometimes I've actually gotten to a point in my career when if I do copywriting, because I'm a little higher level and a little more in demand, I can command a little bit higher rate. And so that helps me work fewer hours at that, to bring in some income. But there are some lean. It gets really lean because that's a seasonal kind. It's really funny how copywriting works. You go through seasons, but they're not defined seasons, So, but it is good work. It actually helped me shape my craft and learn a lot. I value everything I did. I worked as a copywriter for many years for many different agencies and freelancing and tons of projects over the years. So, and still to this day, I do some copywriting. A lot, actually. I have clients. Still have great clients. But my focus my dream has always been to write books. And before I got married, I was teaching, and I wrote a horror novel. And I had written some things before, but this was really the first time I focused on writing a full-length book. And I did. I wrote it. Like I said, I was a teacher. I had plenty of time, sounds weird, but I was teaching in an alternative center, so I had long stretches during the day where I didn't really have much else to do. That's just the way that system worked. I don't really approve of it now that I think back on it, but it's, whatever. It was a poorly designed system at the time. But I would knock out, a page or two a day at the time, and, over time that added up, and I had a book. And I printed it and had it spiral bound so I could, easily edit it without losing page. I don't know why. I spiral bound it because in my head, I was making myself a book. I was printing, whatever. That's anything to fool yourself into doing the work, I guess. So, but that book was not good. It was pretty well. It was just improvised from cover to cover, and I'd had some short stories that won awards at that point, and I fancied myself an author already, so I thought, I can do this. And I think that book was a huge learning experience. I still to this day have trouble going back and looking at that. I've tried editing it. One day I will sit down and edit that and clean it up and make that the book it really deserves to be. I think it's got potential. It's a decent story. There was no plotting involved, so it kind of rambles and it's all over the place here and there. But I can fix that now with a seasoned eye. So I'll get to that eventually. I will. So that book, by the way, the title right now is Long Hard Winter in July, and I've tried a couple of times to revive that. And who knows? I'll probably change the title, but look for that someday. So, special edition. Then I got married, and we were broke for the first few years of our marriage. We're still broke. In most respects. We're not exactly eating caviar for dinner. Who eats caviar for dinner, by the way? So we, I don't know. I tried my hand at selling some stories that never seemed to work. I was selling some articles and that helped. I started copywriting and that helped. But I really just, I wanted to write a book. I really just wanted to be an author. That's all I wanted to do. And so I wrote a book that was just sort of kind of a male version of Chick Lit. Called The Last Single Guy, which is also a terrible book, but it was no, I'm not giving it enough credit. It was a good book. I plotted it. I was doing the work, but in the end, I don't think that it really worked. That's another one I'm going to go back and edit someday. But that was a progression. I kept writing these books, and I kept realizing how bad they were, and then put them aside. And then one day I got together with my brother-in-law Jeremy and my good friend Bob, and we were going to create a web series, a video series. And the idea was to focus on a group of, so the backstory here is the shows Lost and Battlestar Galactica were both very popular at this time, and we were inspired by them. And so what we wanted to create was something that had some elements of those, a little bit of steampunk thrown in, some cool. So I had this idea for a story called Citadel, and it was something that I'd been kicking around for a while. But my brother-in-law and my friend and I sat and decided to develop that as a series, which we plotted out some of the basics of it, and we got to a point where I think we probably could have made that. If we'd had funding, we could have made that a show. But I thought, I want this story to exist. I want people to be able to interact with it. So I decided to write the book. And it took a while. It was, I was stealing moments here and there where I could work on it. Was not nearly disciplined enough to sit down every day at that time, but I was doing okay with it. And then eventually I had a book, and I published it way too early. No sooner had it left my fingertips than I was already looking around for ways to publish it, and I stumbled across Amazon's CreateSpace, which was a brand new service at that time, or at least new to me. I had never heard of it. And man, instantly I'm like, oh, wow, I can have my book in print. That's all that mattered. So as a result, I released that book in print and an ebook, and it was just riddled with typos and spelling errors and grammar and mechanics errors that because I didn't edit. I didn't go back and edit. I just threw the raw, and I'm good enough to do this. I edit it as I go, fool. You fool. So, but later I revised it and released it. And still, to this day, there are still typos in that thing. I've paid thousands of dollars to people to go through and find this stuff. And to this day, I get readers who email me and say they found something. So sad. So after I wrote that, it took me I made this huge error when I wrote that book. I put something on the cover that I regretted for the next 2 years, which is the words Book 1. I indicated that this was the first in a trilogy, and for the next 2 years that hounded me because people who read the book could not wait to see the second one, and so I just dreaded writing that, just dreaded it. So eventually I came around to it. I managed to get it done. And it just dragged that out of me, kicking and screaming. And it had some of the same problems as the first one, but I took the opportunity to go back and re-edit the first one as part of that, because I needed to remind myself of the story, first of all. But I also just, that had plagued me all these years as well, that it was sitting there, this ugly baby that I could fix if I just went back and looked at it. And then for another 2 years, the idea of the third book hounded me and made me feel dread. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night feeling guilty about it. People would send me emails begging to know when the third stupid book was going to be released. And so fast forward, and I'm still wanting to be an author at this point. I'm still dreaming. And fast forward a couple of years later, and I decided, this is in December of, actually, this was relatively recently, this was December of 2013. I made a decision, which was, if I really want to do this, if I really want to be an author, I gotta do it or shut up about it. I either have to do this or I gotta stop doing this. And the idea of stopping was enough to scare me into taking some action. So I started listening to podcasts, like the self-publishing podcast. I started reading more books. I started looking at blog posts. I have this thing that when I'm interested in something and want to be an expert in it, I start talking to people who've done it. So I contacted a bunch of authors, listened to Joanna Penn's podcast, and a whole bunch of other podcasts, and started talking to these people and asking questions, and started slowly learning some things, and started to build my platform and build my marketing strategy, and to start treating that as the business it should be. So come January, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do this. I had started the third Citadel book and had gotten a little way along, but never, I was never going to finish it. Not at that pace. And it just, facing it every day really killed me. But on one of the podcasts or somewhere, I started seeing more and more, actually, people would refer to Scrivener, which is a piece of writing software that I actually already owned. I'd owned for years, and I had tried using it and just never clicked with it. It seemed complicated. I was so used to Word, Microsoft Word, and I'd written everything so far in Word, and I'd even done like layout in Word, um, which is not bad actually. You can do that. Word is actually a much more functional tool than people give it credit for, but it's stupid functional. Like you sometimes it overcomplicates things to the point where they become impossible. But it's still an industry standard. I can't get away from it. I'd love to. If I get to a point where I'm writing books full time, I may just ditch it altogether. But in the meantime, I'm stuck with it. But the thing was, I kept hearing people talk about Scrivener and talking about how it was revolutionizing the way they wrote. And to be honest, I needed something to shake me up as an author. So I took on the task of learning how to use that. And wow, I mean it literally changed my life. I mean, it changed the way I approached writing, and it changed the way I approached the discipline of it. So it actually helped me create a workflow. So I cannot say enough good things about Scrivener. I mean, it's amazing. It does have its weak points and flaws, but mostly just trivial things. Like I wish it were available on a mobile platform. Like I want to be able to open up my Scrivener documents on iPhone or iPad and, if not write, at least read and edit, So, and that's supposedly coming. It's been coming every year for the past few years, but it's supposed to be here this year. I kind of have my doubts, but so Scrivener changed everything for me, and that was something that came out of this research I was doing, where I learned exactly what I could do and exactly how this business could work. I read more books. I read the guys from Self Publishing Podcast. They wrote a book called Write, Publish, Repeat, which I read. I do this sort of journey of self-discovery thing constantly. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I read constantly. Anytime I've got drive time, I've got an audiobook going or I've got a podcast going, unless I'm with my wife, and then we listen to music. But if it were up to me, I'd listen to my books. But we've got, there were books that I was reading, like 4-Hour Work Week and Laptop Millionaire and the $100 Startup. So these are books that are focused on the sort of micro entrepreneur crowd, the internet entrepreneur. And I found that stuff jived with the indie publishing idea. In that business. And suddenly I realized I knew a lot more about this than I thought. I'd been studying this for years and didn't realize it. So I started doing this. And I wrote the last Citadel book. I started it in fits, but I really dedicated myself to it and knocked it out in the rest of the book out and with edit in 30 days. And then I thought, that was good. Let me try this from scratch and see if I can do a book in 30 days. And I did, which was this first Sawyer Jackson book. And so I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can sit down and write a book every 30 days if that's my goal and publish. And I can just keep doing this forever. And if I can start getting sales, that's great. If not, then I'm creating a volume of work. So, and I'm learning as I go. Every book has been a new learning experience. As I get more familiar with Scrivener, I actually went ahead and now I've paid to take the Learn Scrivener Fast course, which I highly recommend. You can get the basics, but you can also get some ninja tricks, which is really why I went after it. But as I do this, and I've made a lot of contacts and friends through this because of this work. One of which is my friend Nick Thacker, who is he's a marketing genius himself, a smarty pants, just like me, and an indie author. And the two of us now are collaborating on a project called The Lucid, which is actually available for pre-order on Amazon right now. So if you go to Amazon and search Lucid and Tumlinson, and those are pretty much the only two times those two words are going to appear together in the online anywhere. But if you search that on Amazon, you'll find the first book, which is the beginning, and you can pre-order, and the book will be available in November. We are that's going to be an amazing story. It's sort of a post-apocalyptic kind of thing. Government intervention gone wrong. So I think you'll dig it. It's going to have some intrigue. It's got a little bit of Dan Brown, Da Vinci Code in there, that kind of feel. A little bit of maybe a little bit of Walking Dead. no, no real zombies. Okay, so this is not a zombie book, but there's a group of people we call the suppressed, which are have been essentially they're being controlled by the government. So it's I don't make it sound that great, but I think I think it's going to be fantastic. I got to work on my pitch. So go check that out. So on that topic, one of the things I want to do each week, now that's my story. I just told you essentially my story, how I got to where I am. So let me back up just a second, because one of the things I mentioned was how much I'd learned here. I don't know if I've said this yet or not, but I actually now offer author coaching. And you can sign up on my site. I offer a free 30-minute starter session. If you go to kevintumlinson.com/author-coaching, you can check out that and see what it's about. And what I'm offering there is, everything I've learned over the past 20 plus years of being in this business. And I'll admit that 80% of that probably wasn't the good stuff. Like it wasn't. I've learned probably the best 20% over the past 7 months. But there are decades behind some of the stuff that I'm teaching people as far as marketing and how to build a platform and how to set up your business and how to grow. And then how to develop a discipline for doing this. I made all those mistakes for you, so you don't have to. So come talk to me. I do a 30-minute free session, and then sessions are $200 an hour, which sounds scary to some people, but then I found that there are a lot of people who think that's very reasonable, which makes me think I should raise my prices. No? Okay. No, but some people get it, I think. They realize that if you're gonna be in a business, any business, there's some investment you got to make, and part of that investment is training, and this is part of that. This is you can shortcut years of time and effort and mistakes by talking to somebody who's already done what you're trying to do. So that's what I'm offering, and I've had clients, and the work is. Has been great. I learn as much from these sessions as the client does. So it's kind of fun. It's a good practice for me as well. So, but there's that. And if you go on my website, you can explore that. Just go to kevintumlinson.com. There's a menu there that you can click through to check out all kinds of things. You can subscribe to my list and get some updates on any new books that come out or anything I'm offering. But part of this is because this podcast is focused on story. One of the things I want to do each week is an interview with, I don't know if you subscribe to this. Maybe you do. I follow this guy on Facebook, actually. But the guy who does Humans of New York, and that's a photo blog, and he does these sort of snapshots of people on the streets of New York, and he does a quick interview with them, and he'll quote them or something, And they're some of the most inspirational stories. And, they're really amazing. He really captures humanity in those things. That's part of what I want to do here. I want to talk to people who are, I'm interested in indie publishing, and I know some of my listeners are, but not everybody is interested in that. I have an interest in marketing and business, and I know not everybody's interested in that. If you're a reader coming in, you want to hear stories, right? You want to know, you want to connect with some people. So I'm going to do something kind of like NPR-ish, I guess, which is I'm going to talk to people in various industries. So there'll be some people from the publishing world, but there'll also be people from marketing. But the people I'm really looking forward to talking to are just everyday human beings. I just contacted an artist who does pop culture art, and I want to get him on the show. I got a guy who does anime, or he does anime parodies, and I want to get him on the show. And if you have an interesting story, man, come come let me know about it. Maybe you'll get on the show. So that's what this is about. This is all about story. Today it was my story because this is the first episode. It's my show. I get to do what I want, but it's also I didn't have anybody lined up, so it was convenient. so, but that's what the show's about. It's all about story. And sometimes I'll share some news clips with you, and sometimes I'll share some tips on things like marketing or how to build a business or whatever. But I think you get the gist. So, speaking of news stories, I actually had one I was going to cover today in news. There's a story about Apple's iCloud that the possibility that it may be vulnerable to a piece of software called Phone Password Breaker. Imagine that. The software was created by a company in Moscow called Elcomsoft, as reported by PC World Reports. And it was originally designed for law enforcement purposes, but go figure, it's being used illicitly. They think that something like this may actually have been a contributor in what's being called the fappening, which is funny, but not funny. It's a funny name. It's not a funny thing because all these celebrities have had their accounts hacked and their nude photos are being spread all over the internet like fine manure. But yeah. So my advice, by the way, if you don't want your nude photos getting out online, is don't have nude photos online. But that's a common sense thing. But if you're interested, I got plenty of nude photos of me I'm willing to put online all day long. So you just let me know, and you're welcome. So if sorry for the pause there. Okay, that was very unprofessional. So this is the very first podcast. Things are a little disorganized, but I do want to offer storytelling tips. So if you're an author, this one's for you. And if you if you have any interest in storytelling, here's a good one for you. So I want to ask you the question: do you want to write a book in 30 days? And I mentioned this earlier, and you might be wondering how I did it. And so I'm going to reveal that to you, okay? And normally this is part of my author coaching, so you get this absolutely free. So here's the deal: if you want to write a book in 30 days, it can absolutely be done. The trick is to first of all, you got to commit yourself to it, and you're going to commit yourself to writing a minimum of 5 days a week, okay? And if you can write 5 days a week and target 2,500 words, then in 1 month you would have 50,000 words, and that's going to equate to about 200 pages in a paperback book. Okay, so that's a lot. It sounds like a lot, right? So it kind of is. I mean, 2,500 words a day is a big target for a lot of people. If you figure that the average page is about 500 words, then you're writing 5 pages of content every single day. If you're familiar with the National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo, this is essentially what they do for the contest. Your goal is to write a book in 30 days. Now, I think 50,000 is the minimum, and that's kind of where I got that number. That's my target on most of my books, by the way. I try to hit 50,000 words for YA fiction because I feel that's a good length. It's a good rhythm for me. It makes it sort of a quick read, and so there's a lot of energy in there. I'm comfortable with that length. Now, I've written longer work now, and the effect is the same. I mean, the process is the same. Nothing changes. But if your goal is to write a book in 30 days, there you go. You sit down, commit to it, write every day, and hit 5 pages or 2,500 words. You can do that easily in Scrivener by setting up your project goals and statistics, or project goals, really. You can set word targets for the day. You can set a word target for the book length. You can even set a word target per each scene. So I highly recommend it. That's a $40 piece of software. It's going to be the best investment you make in your writing career, I think, other than coming to kevintumlinson.com for some author coaching. But I digress. So so there you go. There's the first official story writing tip. I also wanted to offer a little bit of something for the marketing crowd and the business crowd, which is I got a little bit of a brand and marketing minute here. So if books aren't your thing, but marketing your business is, consider this. Good marketing starts by attracting customers into your funnel with an enticing offer. So look at your business and consider something that you do or make that could be given away as a freemium. In other words, you're handing this out for no charge. You want it to have value. You know, you don't want it to be garbage, but you want it to be something that your potential customer will value. So you're giving out this freemium in exchange for signing up for your mailing list. If you don't already have a mailing list, you are way behind the curve. So if you are in business, and that is practically everyone, because even if you're in a career, you're in business. But if your goal is to promote your work or your services or your products, then you need a mailing list. Because if you're gonna market online, it's absolutely essential. It's job one, right? You can get it started with a mailing list for free with services like MailChimp. It's a free way to start building a list, which you can actually export later into more advanced services. There are services like Aweber or whatever. Now, the general wisdom on MailChimp is that it gets expensive once you get to the point where you have to start paying for it. So, and I don't remember how many names and email addresses that is, but once you reach a certain level, they start charging you. So you want to monitor that, because apparently they're a lot more expensive than other services. But they're a good way to get started. And they might be worth it to you. I mean, I like MailChimp, and I'm one of these guys that I will pay the convenience tax on things. I use PayPal for billing and for invoicing, and I know that PayPal takes a pretty big cut of what I do, but the convenience of it and the universality of it, did I do that right? Makes it worthwhile. I'm willing to pay that rate. So that's up to you. That's a personal preference. That's my personal preference. I like things to be easy. So if, though, you want to get into something a little more advanced, I have a sort of, it's growing and we're working out the finer details, but I have a sort of, the word is completely slipped out of my brain. I have sort of an affiliate relationship with a company called Acton, ACT-ON. And those guys do what MailChimp and other companies do, but they're a lot more advanced, and they have a lot of really great tools for doing things like setting up an email campaign, nurturing campaigns, creating your funnels, and also landing pages and that sort of thing for your site. So if you've got an email campaign, you can tie a landing page directly to it. You don't even have to do anything on your site. You can build it right there in the Acton service. So if you own a business, large or small, you should talk to me. Eventually, the plan is to give you a code that you can give to Acton, and hopefully get like a discount or something. I'm working on that right now. But if not, until then, come visit me at kevintumlinson.com. Send me an email and say you're looking for a solution for your marketing, and we'll help you out. So, and there's that. That's it. That's that. So one more thing I wanted to cover. If you would like to call me, you can do that. So here's the deal. If you go on kevintumlinson.com/podcast, there's a call me button just under the logo. If you click on that, you can give your name and phone number, and Google will call you. And you can leave a voicemail for me. Once you've done that, I'll get a notification, and then I can play your question on air. So you can ask me anything, and I'll put you on the show. And it's not a guarantee. Sometimes I know there's going to be more than I can handle, or a question may not be appropriate, or whatever. But I know you guys are going to give me some great questions. So if you are interested in asking a question, go ahead, fire it off. And if you don't like the idea of giving a voicemail, there's a button right under that that'll let you send me just an email with it. And if you, for whatever reason, want to leave me a voicemail or an email and you don't want that read on air, or you don't want your name included or something, I hope that, just tell me, say that in the message. But I hope that you won't do that, because we are all about the story, and you're part of that story. You're a character here now. So let's build that story together. So that's it for this week. It's been fun. I've loved chatting with you. Tune in next time, and we'll have some real interviews with real people who are really real. We'll also, I'll also talk about ways you can remove your pants without using your hands, which is not a topic I'm actually going to talk about. But if you want, hey, let me know. I think I've got a video on that somewhere. If you like this little trip into my brain, but it just wasn't enough, you can visit me online again, kevintumlinson.com. I'm going to say it like 1,000 times, so you'll have it nice and memorized. But kevintumlinson.com, if you go there, you can check up on my books. You can see information about new releases. You can sign up for some author coaching if that's your thing. You can read the blog, or you can get on the list and get some weekly updates. I may even give away some free stuff. And in fact, if free's your thing, I've got free books. Come check out. If you land on the homepage, you can register for a copy of Sawyer Jackson in the Long Land, which is book 1 of Sawyer Jackson. That's my young adult fantasy series. It's a lot of fun to write. I love that series. You're going to love it too. And all I'm asking is your name and email address. That's a bargain, right? I do ask one other thing. If you get a free book, and there are lots of them on that site, so go there, click the books link, and you'll see some more. But that's a little tip. But if you are going to get a free book, I ask one thing: go on Amazon and review that book, please, because these reviews, they'll make or break an author. They really will. So, if you like what I'm writing and you want to see more of it, and you like getting free stuff, that's all I ask. Go on Amazon, go on Goodreads, everywhere, especially Amazon, but anywhere you can think, where your own blog, on social media, everywhere. Link back to my books or whatever, and help me promote that by putting a review up there. And I read these, man. I really need to start responding to them. Sometimes I'm afraid to, because I don't want to scare anybody off. I want you to know I read every one of them. I don't always respond, because I don't know. Maybe I should. You let me know. You know what? I'm going to start responding to all those. I may go back and respond to all the ones that are there already. So, that's refreshing. So I hope you dug this. I've had a lot of fun doing it. We're wrapping. This is our first episode. And sorry about that. It was a little loud. But we're gonna do this every week. So tune in. Go subscribe on iTunes if you're not already. Be sure to visit me at kevintumlinson.com. Ask me anything. You can go to kevintumlinson.com/podcast and you ask me any question you want. I will definitely get to it somehow, some way. See you next week.
Word slinger.